we talked sales, but that same method of thinking, I think, applies heavily as a husband and father.
100%.
Because, and I teach this in my program, and it is adapted kind of from a sales methodology, effective communication styles, right? There's essentially 4 archetypes of people. There's controllers, supporters, all these different types of people. It's the burden on you as the communicator to change the way you give the information so that they can actually receive it in their communication style.
Yep.
It's not on them to adapt to you. It's on you to adapt to them. That's from a sales point of view, but I think that's even more important as a husband and father. I need to understand my wife and become a student of my wife to know her communication styles, how she really hears the information.
Yeah.
And I need to make sure that I'm putting it in the right way for her, right?
Totally.
It's probably not how I communicate to soldiers, for example. Same thing with my daughter, right? I need to make sure that I'm adapting to how she can receive what I'm telling her. And I think a lot of guys... no, you're good.
You taking that ownership, though, that's leadership.
Right. Yeah, and
not pawning it off.
All men listening, if you are married or have kids too, you're a leader. Welcome to the show, right? You volunteered for this.
Yeah. You got the badge that you didn't have to.
Exactly.
You signed up automatically.
You wanted to be a husband, or you wanted to be a dad, or maybe you didn't want to, but you are now. So it's your responsibility. But yeah, that piece about understanding how important communicating properly is. It is a little salesy, right? But it's a very valuable skill because, again, it's not to extort people. It's like, I need to teach my daughter a lesson, right? So that she doesn't get the boo-boo again or whatever. Okay, well, I can't talk to her like a business associate. I need to adapt that into, 9-year-old language and communication understandings and everything. And if you fail to learn that or even attempt it, you're kind of just like a hammer walking around just swinging at everything, and you're going to break a lot of things.
Yep.
And unfortunately, as men, we're swinging that hammer inside our own home. And now we can adapt this to like angry outbursts and lack of emotional regulation. And this is a big problem really fast. So sorry to go down that rabbit hole.
Well, you put a hole in the wall, you call someone to fix it. You put a hole in your relationship. There's no one to call that's just going to go and patch that up besides you.
Yeah. So, I mean, the sales conversation isn't necessarily wasted because that exact same thought process applies with, that's a great model. If you're struggling with how to connect with your wife and you're like, oh, it's kind of awkward, or I don't know how to like open the door again to just having, emotional connection again, just throughout your day, just send her a text, hey, honey, just thinking about you. I love you. Do that. I do. I've talked about this too, the sticky notes, right? So I'll just randomly, I don't do it every morning. I do it somewhat consistently, but a little bit randomized on purpose. But I'll just write little affirmations or, maybe something happened the day before and I'm like, my kid did something or my wife did something. I'm so proud of you. Just like a heartfelt little couple sentences and I stick it somewhere for them to find later and they'll find it later. And then there you go. It just shows that you're thinking about them for more than 2 seconds, right?
Totally.
And those.
Do you think your wife's beautiful?
Absolutely.
Why not tell her?
I do tell her
all
the time.
But
you're right.
Like why not? Oh, I just got off a business call, or I'm at lunch, and instead of scrolling Facebook, just send a text message.
Yeah, exactly.
Hey, you're beautiful. And funny enough, I just saw what you posted on Facebook, and blah blah blah. Right, like. And those little things I think are just so important, and in everything, everything, every relationship. You talked about those communication styles, and it brought back a memory, and I want to share the story with everybody. 2 years ago, my wife and I, she's an entrepreneur. She owns a chiropractic. She's a chiropractor. She owns her own company, and she's now starting a marketing company. But 2 years ago, I'm having this first conference I threw in a 65,000 square foot facility, hundreds of people, 12 speakers just going bananas. And I want to create a journal so that way people could have something to take the action steps and build it. And we sat down and I said, let's partner on it. And the first meeting, I came and I've been thinking about this for a week and I'm prepared and I've got this and she wants to brainstorm, right? And in that moment, because I didn't realize the connection of how I would communicate to increase my company culture, how I would communicate to increase sales, I didn't use those methodologies in that, and it was a fucking disaster. It was a disaster of a meeting at our kitchen table, which to me was even more embarrassing when I started to reflect on it, that how did we not be able to communicate literally at the center of most people's homes, right? The kitchen table is like where you make a lot of your big decisions, where you eat dinner.
Family meetings,
all of it, right? Yeah. Projects, arts, crafts, like all of it. Homework with kids. And in that moment, I was like, wow, I didn't use any of those skills on communication. Now you fast forward and I'm helping her with the marketing company and some strategies, and utilizing those techniques have gotten to the point where we're like, a meeting, hiring a babysitter, because we've been doing this lately. We've hired a babysitter to have a meeting about building a company.
Smart.
It's like expenses before we even file the LLC. Can we wrap those into the P&L, please, and have a good write-off the first year?
Startup costs.
But I'm like, okay, that 4-hour meeting that costs us $150 for a babysitter, there has to be a strategy, but the strategy isn't my strategy. It has to be a cohesive.
Right.
So what we've done is like, we talk about things, we go to because I'm the spreadsheet guy, we go to the task grid tracker. Right. And I just read it. So I'm good knowing like she did all this and this is what she's working on and this is pending. And we have like a conversation. Then we kind of just do our own thing on our couple projects and we help each other.
Right.
But I came into it like, why didn't you have that done? Or why didn't you haven't been thinking about this? And, you know, I built this and did. That's not how she wants to have the conversation. Right. She wants to do it as a group. She's more of like the counselor, right? She wants the outside counsel and to talk about it. Where I'm like, I mean, I'll take the biggest, you know me, man. I'll take the biggest risk possible if I believe in it. I don't need a day to think about it. I'm like, let's go.
Yeah, you're a doer.
Yeah, let's go. Let's do it. All right, we're going to have an event, man. Collaborate. All right, when's the date? All right, let's go.
Yeah, the 4 types are doer, talker, supporter, and controller, right? And so people can be like a blend of two. They're usually a blend of two. Like I'm a doer, talker, 100%. Like to the max, you know, and it's like they're risk takers. They make decisions quickly. They actually get annoyed if you give too much information. Like if you start trying to show me your spreadsheet, you're going to wear me out. I'm like, bro, I'm 7 steps ahead of you already. I get it.
Eyes glazing.
I don't need all the details. Then there's other people who are the exact, like you need all the details to feel comfortable. You know, and so it's just a little bit of that awareness. Like your wife has a style. Yeah. Your children have a style, and they're probably all different too. Yep. And so it's just a good little thought exercise to kind of evaluate, like, dang, how do I, because you naturally are going to communicate the way that you are programmed. Like, so I'm a doer talker. I'm going to all energy, excitement and stuff. And sometimes that like makes my wife anxious because it's like too amped, right? Yep. So I've had to learn how to be a little bit more stoic and be like, ask questions and make sure that she needs all the variables answered to, right? To feel safe.
You and I are like.
So, but my point is, you need to think about these things because the most important relationships is yourself first and then your family. And then everything else is secondary. And if you can keep your house in order in a sense, that is easier to pour over into the other aspects than the other way around. Like we've talked about, we both talked about how in our careers, we like were, you know, Mr. Go-Getter and we were the man and all that kind of stuff. And then we did literally none of it at home. Yep. But if you do it in the other way around, it actually pays dividends better. So
it's funny. It's we say the things out loud,
sure,
but we don't do the actions that support the things, right? And I think that's why, like, when I started doing my success statement for the year, like that was the best reflection because I was saying all the things and there was no lead measures leading up to me doing the things. Right. So like I get on a podcast and say I do all this stuff, but who does that benefit? A random person hearing it that may want to implement it, but it's not benefiting my home because I'm not actually doing it. Like that makes no sense, you know? Yeah. So I've definitely felt victim to that at a point, but I think the biggest thing is just having the awareness, right? And I think that's a blessing for me to be so aware, but I also think like that level of awareness, we can also think that things are great without those communication styles and doing the work on the front end.